أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد الهادي الأمين وعلى آله وجنده الطيبين الطاهرين. أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله لا شريك له لا إله إلا هو وإليه المصير. اللهم ما أمسى بنا من نعمتنا أو بأحد من خلقك منك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. What did we cover last time? Where did we stop? It's a series, right? So it's a long time ago, yes. But still, anybody remembers? By the way, they have them online, so you can always go back actually and check. Where did we stop? What? The Battle of Uhud. We covered the Battle of Uhud, and the last thing that we discussed really was the attempt of the Prophet ﷺ to correct the situation by Hamra al-Asad, the expedition of Hamra al-Asad. Now, of course, the Battle of Uhud was a big defeat to the Muslims. And the Prophet ﷺ was highly concerned about that, because when people start thinking very little of the Muslims, then they will take the Muslims as an easy target. So this will subject the Muslim to some really great danger, and that's exactly what happened. That after, the credibility and the strength was established with the Battle of Badr, then all of that was lost in the Battle of Uhud, basically reversing the process. And the Prophet ﷺ was concerned, first of all, he was concerned about that, what that would do to the morale of the Muslims. And then second thing is what that would do to the status of the Muslims. That when people feel that the Muslims are an easy target, then everybody will have the audacity to attack them. The Muslims becomes an easy target. That's why the Prophet ﷺ tried to correct this problem as much as possible with an expedition that followed the Battle of Uhud immediately, which we discussed earlier. The Prophet returned from Uhud on Saturday. And on Sunday, the Prophet ﷺ called upon those people that were with him in the Battle of Uhud to go back and then follow and chase basically the army of Quraysh, to again re-establish the strength of the Muslims. And of course, Quraysh ran away from the path of the Muslims and no fighting actually happened. But at least the situation was rectified as much as possible. But still, the news that the Muslims were defeated, and were defeated actually big, by the army of Quraysh and its allies. That's why some people try to have, again, the audacity of attacking the Muslims. And the first such group was the tribe of Asad bin Khuzaymah. The tribe of Asad bin Khuzaymah were plotting on attacking the Muslims in Medina. The Prophet ﷺ heard of what they were plotting. So he sent a small expedition, a small army of 150 people under the leadership of Abi Salama, alayhi radwanillah, the great Abi Salama, alayhi radwanillah, to go and then basically attack them before they attacked the Muslims. And he was able to defeat them and basically disperse their force. And Abu Salama alayhi radwanillah was wounded in that battle, and he returned and he died shortly after. And then another thing that happened, and this was in Muharram of the 4th year after the migration. The 4th year after the migration. And then not long after that, two major events, catastrophes actually happened to the Muslims. The first one is called the incident of Al-Raji'. The incident of Al-Raji' or Ma3unah, or the oasis of Al-Raji'. What happened, this was in the Safar of the same year, the 4th year after the Hijrah. Then a group from the tribe of Adl and Qarra. The tribes of Adl and Qarra came to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and they told him that we're interested about Islam. Why don't you send somebody with us to teach us about Islam? That's how they came to the Prophet. And the Prophet ﷺ sent 10 great companions with knowledge and Quran and everything, under the leadership of Asim ibn Thabit. And he sent them to go teach the Muslims, to go teach actually the tribes of Adl al-Qarra about, about Islam. But as they were going, then of course they betrayed them. Not the Muslims, of course, the other betrayed the Muslims, and they called upon their own tribes that who will help us kill these Muslims. And Banu Lahyan, the tribe of Lahyan, responded to that, and basically they attacked with 100 archers, 100 soldiers. They attacked the Muslims, and they killed all of them except two. They managed to kill all of them except two, and those were Khubayb ibn Adi and Zayd ibn Dafinna. Khubayb ibn Adi and Zayd ibn Dafinna. So what happened was Zayd ibn Dafinna, they captured him and they sold him to someone from Quraysh who had basically a blood against him. So they sought revenge from him by killing him for what he killed in the earlier battles. Now what happened with Khubayb ibn Adi? Also Khubayb ibn Adi, they took him to Mecca and they sold him to Mecca, and the leaders of Quraysh, the leaders of Mecca, decided to kill him. Khubayb ibn Adi was one of the greatest companions. What happened? He was held a captive. He was held captive as a prisoner, and the one who was guarding him was a woman from Banu Asad. And she said, she became Muslim later on, she said, I've never seen any prisoner better than him. I would go to see what he needs, and I would find him eating grapes. And there's not even a single date in Medina, let alone actually grape. One of the karamat of this great Sahaba. But this Khubayb ibn Adi alayhi ridwanullah, he knew that he was to be executed. So he wanted in a way to die in a clean state. So he sent to that woman and he asked her, why don't you send me a sharp object, a sharp metal, that I can, remove the extra hair and then become clean before I die. So what she did, she grabbed this sharp object and she gave it to her child, and she said to the child, go give it to Khubayb ibn Adi. Of course, you're giving a child a sharp object to go there. And as soon as she sent him, then what did I do? She thought, he could have killed him. He could have easily killed my child. And she goes in there and she finds the child sitting on the lap of Khubayb ibn Adi. And Khubayb ibn Adi basically patting on his back and saying, Subhanallah, how could your mother trust you with this? Doesn't she have a mind, so to speak? But of course, Khubayb ibn Adi was not somebody to harm any child like that. A person can easily argue, well, he was about to be executed. So the easiest thing for him to do is basically to take this child as a captive and to threaten to kill him if they don't release him. But he wouldn't do that. This was not what he was taught by Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So he sent the child back. And then they brought him to be executed. And he said, before you execute me, I have a request. I would like to pray 2 rak'ahs before I die. That's why he's believed to be the one that established the shahada, the 2 rak'ahs of shahada, before he died alayhi ridwanullah. And he finished the 2 rak'ahs quickly, and he said to them, I finished quickly because I don't want you to think that I'm afraid of dying, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he started reciting some beautiful poetry. Subhanallah, he said, on the spot, he said, وَلَسْتُ أُبَالِ حِينَ أُقْتَلُ مُسْلِمًا عَلَى أَيِّ شَقٍ كَانَ فِي اللَّهِ مَلْجَعِي وَذَلِكَ فِي ذَاتِ الْإِلَهِ وَأَنْ يَشَأْ يُبَارِكْ عَلَى أَوْصَالِ شَلْوٍ مُمَزَّعِ. That I don't care if I die so long as it is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Abu Sufyan told him, wouldn't you wish to be back safe with your family? And Muhammad is here instead of you. And you're back comfortable among your family and in your house. And he said to him, I wouldn't wish to be comfortable in my family and the Prophet being hit by a thorn where he is, let alone be actually in my place. And he was killed as a shaheed alayhi ridwanullah, Khubayb ibn Adi, one of the greatest Sahaba alayhi ridwanullah. And then in the same month, so in that incidents, 10 of the great Sahaba were killed for no reason, like that, stabbed in the back basically. And then in the same month, an even graver story happened. And this is the story of Ma3unah, the well of Ma3unah. What happened, Abu al-Bara Amr ibn Malik, known as Mula'ib al-Asinnah, came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked him about Islam. And he said that, yeah, Muhammad, I will not embrace Islam, I will not reject it. Let me think. But why don't you send some people to teach my family, to teach my tribe about Islam? And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that I would be afraid that they might stab them in the back, they might betray them, and then kill them or harm them, the people of Najd. And Abu al-Bara said that they will have my protection, they will have my word. And this is something, by the way, that is highly respected in Jahiliyyah, before Islam. That when somebody basically gives his jiwar or his protection, this is something to be respected by everybody. It is not something to be taken lightly. So the Prophet ﷺ trusted that. And the Prophet ﷺ, as a result, he sent 70 of the great companions with the knowledge and with Quran to teach those people about Islam. And the leader of that group was Al-Mundhir ibn Amr, alayhi ridwanullah, one of the people of Banu Sa'idah. And they left, and as they got close to that land, then they sent one of their messengers, his name is Haram ibn Malhan, to discuss with the leader of that tribe. And the leader of that tribe, Amr ibn Tufayl, a very evil person, he responded basically by asking one of his soldiers to stab this Haram ibn Malhan with a spear. And this person who stabbed him became Muslim later on. He narrated this story. He said, I grabbed the spear and I threw it at him, And as soon as I hit him with it, he said, Allahu Akbar, fuztu wa rabbil Kaaba. Allahu Akbar, I won by the Lord of the Kaaba. And he said, I thought to myself, what did he win? I just killed the guy. What did he win? And of course, later he understood that what he won was shahada for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He died for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Amr ibn Tufayl called among his tribe for support to go kill these Muslims. His own tribe refused basically to respond to that, Banu Amir. Why? Because of the promise that Abu al-Bara ibn Amir has given them. Amr ibn Malik has given them. But then 3 tribes responded to him. Their name is Usayya, Ra'al and Dhakwan. Usayya, Ra'al and Dhakwan responded to him and they attacked the Muslims. 70 of the great Sahaba alayhim duwanillah were killed. All of them were killed except actually 2 of them. One of them was basically among the group, and he managed basically to escape. And another one was Amr ibn Umayyah al-Damri. Amr ibn Umayyah al-Damri, he managed to escape. He managed to escape and then go back to tell the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam of what happened, of the great betrayal, the great tragic event that happened, 70 great Sahaba alayhim ridwanillah being killed. On his way back to Medina, he stopped somewhere and there were 2 men from Bani Kulab. 2 men from Bani Kulab that were related to the people that killed the 70. So what he did, he waited for them to sleep and he killed them, thinking that I took revenge for the killing of my companions. But then after they slept, after he killed them, he found out that they had an agreement for protection from the Prophet ﷺ. So he went back to Medina and he told the Prophet ﷺ of what happened. And the Prophet ﷺ basically, with the tragedy that happened, he blamed him for what he did. That how could you do that after they have my word for protection? And the Prophet ﷺ basically started collecting money to pay back their diya, their ransom. Yeah, look at the justice of Islam. Despite the fact that these are related to a tribe that just killed 70 of the greatest Sahaba alayhim ridwanillah, but however, whatever promise, whatever agreement was made, it was to be honored. So the Prophet ﷺ started collecting the diya, or the money for whoever actually died to pay for those 2 men that were killed from Bani Kulab. Meanwhile, of course, the tragedy was really heavy on the Prophet ﷺ. That after the Battle of Uhud, where 70 great companions were killed, here's another instance where another 70 were killed without even fighting, without putting any fight, just being basically betrayed. That's why the Prophet ﷺ kept on making dua against Lahyan, Ra'al, Dhakwan and Usayya for 30 days in the qunut of al-witr, every day in the Fajr prayer, every day for 30 days, after which he stopped alayhi salatu wassalam. Meanwhile, of course, again, with the Muslims being killed and attacked, Uhud and then Al-Raji' and then Ma3unah, then people had more audacity toward attacking the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam and the Muslims. And one such instance is the story of Banu Nadir, the Jews of Banu Nadir. Now keep in mind, in Medina, or around Medina, there were 3 main Jewish tribes. Banu Qaynuqa', which we discussed after the Battle of Badr, they left. They were evacuated out of Medina because of what they did to the Muslim woman in the market. We discussed that. The 2 remaining tribes were Banu Nadir and Banu Qurayza. Now these Banu Nadir, of course, the Prophet ﷺ went to them basically to get the share from the ransom that he was to pay. You know, when the Prophet migrated to Medina, there was an agreement between the Muslims and the Jewish tribes that whoever has to pay a blood money, then everybody will contribute. Whether it's the Muslim or the Jews, everybody will contribute to that. So here, based on that treaty, then the Jews of Banu Qurayza or Banu Nadir were supposed to contribute to the money that the Prophet is collecting to pay for the tribes of Banu Kulab. So the Prophet went to them to collect that, and with him was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq alayhi and Umar, and then few select Sahaba alayhi. So Banu Nadir, again, they kept on trying to plot against the Prophet ﷺ until they decided basically to kill him. What was to happen? They asked Prophet Muhammad, yes, we'll get you the money. Why don't you sit there by that wall, rest in there, and we'll bring you the money. And after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ went there, then they started discussing among themselves, you will never find Muhammad like he is today. An easy target. So who among you will grab a big stone and throw it on him from above, killing him and being done with him once and for all? Then one of theirs, Amr ibn Jahash, he said, I will do it. But of course, before they did anything, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, Jibreel alayhi salam came to Prophet Muhammad and he told him of what they were planning. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam left at once and was followed by the Sahaba and came back with the army of Medina. Subhanallah. Because of what they were doing. And Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam sent them a messenger, Muhammad ibn Ma3unah, and he told them that you have 10 days. You have 10 days to surrender. Otherwise, we will be attacking you. And true enough, they were about to surrender. The story of Ma3unah, by the way, was described in a surah that came all about that occasion. Which surah was that? Anybody knows? I'm sorry? Not the ayah? No, the surah. I said Surah Al-Hashr. Jazakumullah khair. Surah Al-Hashr actually came about the evacuation of Banu Nadir. So here, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam gave them 10 days. And then true enough, they were about to surrender for 10 days. However, the head of the munafiqeen, the head of the hypocrites, Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, he started basically asking them that, no, we'll be supporting you. Don't surrender. You're strong enough. You can resist. You can fight back. Don't listen to Muhammad. Don't surrender. So they changed their mind. After they were about to actually surrender, and this was something dangerous. Why? Because Banu Nadir were really powerful. They were very strong, and they had very strong fortresses, so they had the protection. And they had the provisions to persevere for a long time, to resist. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to them from where they did not expect. Or the weakness came to them from where they did not expect. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Surah Al-Hashr, هُوَ الَّذِي أَخْرَجَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ لِأَوَّلِ الْحَشْرِ مَا ظَنَنْتُمْ أَنْ يَخْرُجُوا وَظَنُّوا أَنَّهُمْ مَانِعَتُهُمْ حُصُونُهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ فَأَتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَمْ يَحْتَسِبُوا وَقَذَفَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الرُّعْبَ يُخْرِبُونَ بِيُوتَهُم بِأَيْدِيهِمْ وَأَيْدِي الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states that He is the one that let the kuffar from Ahl al-Kitab out of their houses for the evacuation. You did not think that they would leave because they seemed to be very strong. Allah says, you did not think that they would leave, and they thought that their fortresses will protect them from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defeated them from where they did not expect by instilling fear and terror in their heart. And they started destroying their own houses with their own hands. That indeed is a great lesson. And that's exactly what happened. After basically remaining there, after only 6 days, they gave up. After 6 days they gave up, and they agreed, of course, to surrender to them. Now what happened with all the support that was promised by Ibn Salul? Nothing happened, of course. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and again it's the same surah, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ نَافَقُوا. Haven't you seen the hypocrites? يَقُولُونَ لِإِخْوَانِهِمُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ. They tell the disbelievers among the people of the book, لَأَنْ أُخْرِجْتُمْ لَنَخْرُجَنَّ مَعَكُمْ لأن أخرجتم لنخرجن معكم ولا نطيع فيكم أحدا أبدا وإن قتلتم لننصرنكم والله يشهد إنهم لكاذبون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, have you seen those hypocrites as they said to their brothers that, do not go out. If you go out, we'll be there with you. And if you are fought, we'll be supporting you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states that they did not support them, or they will not support them, and they will not obey them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the witness that they are liars. And after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, كَمَثَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِذْ قَالَ لِلْإِنسَانِ كُفُرْ فَلَمَّا كَفَرْ. That like the example of the shaitan, when he said, to the person, to the human, disbelieve, become a disbeliever. فَلَمَّا كَفَرْ. But when that person disbelieved, what did the shaitan say? قَالَ إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّنْكَ إِنِّي أَخَافُ اللَّهَ رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. No. I have nothing to do with you. I fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's exactly what happened. Sometimes we blame the shaitan, but at the end it is our choices that we make. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Ibrahim, وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانُ لَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعْدَ الْحَقِّ وَوَعَدْتُكُمْ فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَنْ دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي فَلَا تَلُومُونِي وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ مَا أَنَا بِمُصْرِخِكُمْ وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُصْرِخِي إِنِّي كَفَرْتُ بِمَا أَشْرَكْتُمُونِي مِنْ قَبْلِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states that that's what the shaitan exactly will do. That on the day of judgment, after the judgment is finalized, what does the shaitan say? Allah promised you the truth, and I promised you falsehood. And I did not have any power over you, except that I invited you and you followed me. I did not have any power over you. Sometimes we blame the shaitan. Oh, the shaitan made me do that. No, the shaitan has no power over you. The shaitan invites me, and it would be my choice to give in or to resist, to follow or to go the other way. وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُم مِّن سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَن دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي. I did not have any power over you, except that I invited you and you followed me. And he will say, so don't blame me. Don't blame me. And blame yourself. I will not be of any help to you today. And so you will not be of any help to me either. I have rejected that which you associated me with. That's what the shaitan says. That's why we won't get deceived that the shaitan, no, you're strong enough. You can do it. Go ahead and then sin left and right. Disobey Allah, disobey the Prophet ﷺ. You'll be in good shape. Well, the shaitan will be the first one basically to reject what you're doing. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. كَمَثَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِذْ قَالَ الْإِنسَانِ كُفُرْ. Like when the shaitan said to the human, ukfur, become a disbeliever. And when that human became a disbeliever, the shaitan said, no. إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ. No, I have nothing to do with you. إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِنْكَ. إِنِّي أَخَافُ اللَّهَ رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. I fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the universe. And with that, Banu Nadir actually were evacuated actually from Al-Madinah. And everything that was left was under the disposal of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. He would decide what was to happen with it. So this is not a spoil of war. Now the spoils of war, if you remember, as we discussed in the Sariyah of Zayd ibn Haritha and at the end of Battle of Badr, that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam will take 1/5. And the rest will be divided among the army. But this one is called al-Fay. This one, the Muslims have gained it without any fighting. That's why this will be under the complete available disposal of the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here in the Quran, ما أفاء الله على رسوله من أهل القرى فلله وللرسول وذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل كي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم. That whatever actually you gained out of this fight is in the hands of the Prophet ﷺ. And after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states a very important verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, وَمَا أَتَاكُمْ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. Whatever, and this is, by the way, a general statement that applies about the guidance of the Prophet in general, not only in this particular instance. Whatever the Prophet commands you to do, then you do it. Whatever the Prophet prohibits you from doing, then abstain from doing. So the Prophet was to be obeyed, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated in this verse and in many other verses. So with that, the Jews of Banu Nadir were evacuated from Medina. Most of them went to Khaybar. Some of them went actually to Bilad al-Sham, the area of Syria and Lebanon. And then, not long after that, another major event happened. And this was in Shawwal of the 5th year. One of the main battles in the history of the Muslims and the Prophet ﷺ. Which battle was that? Any guess? Al-Khandaq. The battle of the trench. Or Al-Ahzab. The battle of Al-Ahzab that Allah actually describes in Surah Al-Ahzab in the Quran. What happened, of course, and this was in Shawwal of the 5th year after the migration, that Abu Sufyan, of course, and Quraysh are still holding the grudge against the Muslims. Yeah, they were able to defeat them after Uhud, but they could not do any more. Not only that, but they had agreed to meet again in the next year, and the Muslims went basically to the agreed upon date, and the Kuffar of Quraysh did not show up. So anyway, this is re-establishing the strength of the Muslims. So before the Muslims basically get their strength back and their credibility back, then Quraysh decided basically to prepare an attack on the Muslims. And the ones that were instigating this attack were not from Quraysh. The ones instigating this big attack and the big war were the Jews of Banu Nadir. The ones that were just evacuated that we talked about. And among the main instigators were Huyay ibn Akhtab, Salam ibn Mushkim, Salam ibn Abu Huqayf, and Kanana ibn Rabi'a. 4 leaders of Banu Nadir basically trying to collect or unite the groups to attack the Muslims once and for all. So they started visiting different tribes, starting with Quraysh. Quraysh said, yes, we'll do it. We'll take the lead on that. And they started visiting the different tribes until they were able to gather an army of 10,000 people. 10,000 soldiers. Never in Arabia has there been such a big army. You can imagine 10,000. Now it was major enough in the battle of Badr where they had 1,000. And then 3,000 in Uhud. And now we're talking about 10,000. it was Quraysh, it was Ghatafan, it was Banu Sulaym, it was the Abyssinians, it was Banu Ghuzara, and some of the other neighboring tribes. All of them basically, that's why it's called Al-Ahzab. Al-Ahzab means the different parties, the different factions, because all of them basically gathered to attack the Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ heard about this huge army coming toward Medina, marching toward Medina. So he consulted with the Sahaba ﷺ, what should I do? What is there to be done? Should we go fight? It's a huge army, obviously. I mean, if they meet them in the battlefield, then the chances are that they may not be able basically to defeat them, because it's a huge army. And that's when a great Sahabi ﷺ, Salman al-Farisi, came up with the suggestion, and he said that back in Persia, whenever the armies or the tribes attack us, we will dig the trenches. We will dig the trenches. And that's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ decided to do. And if you look basically at Medina, that you had Medina basically surrounded by different harrat, different pointy, rocky hills, so to speak. So an attack could not come from that. Now, but if you look, you'll have at the bottom, which is the southeast, you have the tribes of Banu Qurayza. This is an open corner where they could attack. And at the other corner, you have basically a space that is planted by closely dense orchards, so nobody, actually no army can penetrate through that. So the only open place where the Muslims could have been attacked or could be attacked is in the north. There's an opening in the north, and that's the only place where the Muslims actually could be attacked. So the Prophet ﷺ decided that we'll dig the trench in that area. And not just that, but of course the Prophet had a plan that whatever we dig, then the dirt will be to the sides of the Muslim. This way there'll be a trench as well as a wall that will protect the Muslim. Not just digging something and removing everything, but we'll dig and we'll build some kind of a wall which will add to the protection. And it was a very deep trench. And what the Prophet ﷺ did, he divided the army or the Muslims into different groups. With different tasks, different groups of 10. So there will be tens of Sahaba ﷺ, and each group was to dig a trench of 40 yards. So each 10 will have a specific task to do. Now, that's very important, because when people work together, some people will work, some people, but here you have 10 with basically a defined goal to achieve, which is 40 yards. And they started digging, and of course the task was to be completed basically before the army comes. Because if the army comes and the trench is not finished yet, then it will be good for nothing. I mean, the job that is not complete will be good for nothing. That's why the effort was to complete. And you can imagine, it started with an army of 3,000. 3,000 Muslims digging. And some people started getting excuses. I have to go check on my family. I have to go check on something. I need to go use the restroom. And some people will go and never come back. Until eventually there were only 300 left. You can imagine the difficulty. That's why the Battle of Khandaq was one of the most difficult moments in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. But just in a way to basically to lighten the moment and the moods, then the Muslims started basically chanting, doing some nasheed. والله لولا الله ما اهتدينا ولا تصدقنا ولا صلينا فأنزلا سكينة علينا وثبت الأقدام إن لقينا. They started chanting that if it wasn't for Allah, we would never be guided. Ya Allah, give us firmness and strength, and then perseverance when we meet our enemies. Then one person came to the Prophet ﷺ to become a Muslim. Subhanallah, in these dark times, the message of Islam still reaches the heart of some people. His name was Ju'ayl. Ju'ayl means a small beetle. Ju'ayl in Arabic, تصغير جعل. والجعل يعني هو الخنفس. Is like a small beetle. So the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet, by the way, normally would not change the name of the Sahaba. So Umar was Umar before Islam. Uthman was Uthman before Islam. Sometimes we think that when a person becomes a Muslim, then brother, you have to change your name. No, Allah, he doesn't have to change his name. Actually, it will be good to maintain his name, unless the name has a negative connotation. For example, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, the great Sahabi, his name was Abdul Uzza, the servant of the Uzza, one of the idols. I mean, obviously that has to be changed. So the Prophet changed that into Abdul Rahman. And here this person whose name has this negative meaning, Ju'ayl, names that some of the Arabs used to call names like that. And the Prophet told him, no, you are Amr. Your name will be Amr. So the Sahaba started chanting, سَمَّاهُ بَعْدَ جُعَيْلٍ عَمْرًا وَصَارَ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْبَائِسِ ظَهْرًا. That he called him after Ju'ayl Amr. And then he will have support from the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet would chant with them. They would say, سَمَّاهُ بَعْدَ جُعَيْلٍ عَمْرًا, and the Prophet would say, عَمْرًا عَمْرًا وَصَارَ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْبَائِسِ ظَهْرًا, and he was a support for him, and the Prophet would say, ظَهْرًا ظَهْرًا. So the Prophet was participating with them. Again, subhanAllah, everybody participating. But of course it was very difficult. It was a very difficult time. And as they were digging, then a group of the tens reached a big rock that they could not basically overcome. So they thought, well, should we go around it? It's a huge rock. And obviously, this will defeat the purpose of the trench. If it's in the middle, they can easily cross over that rock and then get in. So they called the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ went there. He grabbed the axe and he said, Bismillah. And he hit the rock and it sparked. A lot of light came out of it. And the Prophet says, Allahu Akbar. And he did it the second time. More spark, more light came out of it. And the Prophet says, Allahu Akbar. And he did it the third time, and more light came out, and the Prophet says, Allahu Akbar. And the rock shattered down. And this is, Ya Rasulullah, what was that? What did we just see? And the Prophet ﷺ said, the first time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed me the castles of Persia. And the ruling of Islam will reach that. The second time Allah showed me the castles of Yemen. And my ruling, or the ruling of Islam, will reach that. The third time, Allah showed me the castles of Bilad al-Sham, and the ruling of Islam will reach that. And this was, of course, was fulfilled not long after that. Now, of course, whenever an event like that happens, then the belief of people gets tested. That's why the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, they said, look at him. One of us cannot even feel safe enough to go to the bathroom. And here's Muhammad promising us the castles of Kisra and the castles of Persia and Yemen and all of that. But the believers said exactly the opposite. They said, this is what Allah and the Prophet have promised us. And what Allah and the Prophet promised is only the truth. SubhanAllah, an event like that basically shows the true nature of people. But of course it was very difficult and a lot of hunger. That's why some of the Sahaba came to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, look at us, we're so hungry. That they were so hungry that they tied a stone tightly over their belly so as to push in and not to feel the hunger. They said, Ya Rasul, look at us. And the Prophet showed his belly and he had 2 stones, alayhi salatu wassalam. Which means that the Prophet was with everybody else. He did not have any special value, no special treatment. Hey, I'm the Prophet. I get to have this special treatment. No, he was like everybody else, working as hard as everybody else. Not less than anyone, alayhi salatu wassalam. But then one of the companions, he had not eaten for 3 days, alayhi salatu wassalam. Jabir ibn Abdullah, he remembered that he had a small goat and a little bit of barley. So he went to his wife and he said to her, the Prophet is going through that. How can we live with that? Let's just kill the goat and make some bread and invite the Prophet. It's a small goat. So she told him, yes, okay, go tell the Prophet, but tell him discreetly. Just you and him. And then tell him to bring with him, maybe 3 people, few people with him. Not more than that, a couple of people. So the man, Jabir ibn Abdullah, went discreetly to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, we have a small goat and a little bit of barley, and my wife is cooking it, and then she would like to invite you and a couple of people. And then the Prophet ﷺ stood before the army of 300. Everybody listen, Jabir is inviting you to a feast. Jabir ibn Abdullah, of course, run away. Ya Lahwi. Oh my Lord, what happened? Of course, he was so embarrassed. What could happen? And then he rushed to the wife. I invited the Prophet ﷺ, and he's bringing 300 with him. And she said, I told you. And he said, I know. And then she asked him something. And the Prophet ﷺ, by the way, he said to him that, do not remove the meat. Keep the meat in the pot. And then he went back to her. And she told him, did the Prophet ask you, did you tell the Prophet what we're cooking? And Jabir ibn Abdullah said, yes, I explained to him exactly what we were cooking. And she said, Allah and the Messenger know better. She trusted the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet would not act like that in a random way. He knows what he was doing ﷺ. That's why he went back to the house of Jabir ibn Abdullah and he started serving himself. Look how humble and how great he was ﷺ. He was serving the people himself. And he said, the more he takes, the more untouched the meat looks. Until the whole army actually ate to the fullest and the meat looked like it was not touched. One of the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ, just for Allah to give strength to the believers. Not only that, but even further, as they were going in there, then Amr ibn Rawaha sent some dates, a little bit of dates, to her husband, and then to her brother, and some to the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ grabbed the dates, very little, and he just basically threw them or spread them on a blanket. And the Sahaba started taking, and the dates kept on increasing in number as if it was not touched. And that's how they were able to persevere. And then they were able to finish, basically the army, to prepare the whole trench before the army arrives. What happens when the army arrives? What happened afterward, inshallah, we'll discuss that next time. See, let's continue, but I may have to stop in the middle still. Okay, khair, inshallah, we'll continue. We'll resume. So what happened, again, the army of Quraysh had arrived. And the army of Quraysh had arrived after the whole digging has finished, was completed, which was of essence. Now the Prophet ﷺ, what he had done to make sure that the soldiers would not be concerned about their families. So what the Prophet ﷺ did, he gathered all the women and the children and the elderly in some fortified place, a fortress. And that was to be guarded by Hassan ibn Thabit, the poet of the Prophet. So anyway, the Muslims will feel that our family are in a safe place, so we won't have to worry about them. Now when Abu Sufyan had arrived, then he saw the trench, and he said, this is not something that the Arabs are used to doing. So this is a trick that the Arabs actually are not used to doing. So he decided, he tried to cross, but he could not. Of course, obviously it was very deep, it was very wide, and there was the dirt on the other side, so he could not cross. So what he decided to do is to try to attack from the weak place. Now remember, we have here Medina, you have the pointy, rocky hills, and the only open place is at the bottom in here. That's where Banu Qurayza, the Jews of Banu Qurayza actually were living. So what he thought, that I could sway the Jews of Banu Qurayza, basically, to take our sides and to break the agreement that they had with the Prophet ﷺ. Now keep in mind, there was the agreement that the Prophet signed after the migration, right? That there will be a mutual protection for both, there will no betrayal, no stabbing in the back, and the Prophet ﷺ abided by that, and he honored that agreement to the fullest. So Abu Sufyan sent Huyay ibn Akhtab, one of the leaders of Banu Nadir, to talk to the leaders of Banu Qurayza. And he spoke to Ka'b ibn Asad. He said to him that, why don't you open the door, I want to go and then talk to you about something. Ka'b ibn Asad felt that, well, he's coming with something. I'm not going to just give in like that so easily. So he said to him, what do you want? I'm not going to let you in. What are you planning? And then Huyay ibn Akhtab told him, well, I think the only reason you didn't want me to come in, because you don't want to host me, you don't want to offer me any food. You're so stingy. And the man said, no, okay, go ahead, come in. So he went in and he told him, Huyay ibn Akhtab, he said, I came to you with the dignity of all the Arabs, basically. What is Muhammad, in the face of 10,000? That's Muhammad stands no chance. Muhammad has no hope of defeating this big army. And if you take the side of Muhammad, basically you'll have the same fate. So basically you'll be destroyed with him because you are his ally and you refuse to attack. So after talking back and forth, then Banu Qurayza decided to breach the agreement with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. You can imagine how dangerous that is. Now that's the weakest point of attack for the Muslims. ﷺ felt that something was happening from the side of Banu Qurayza. So he sent Sa'd ibn Mu'adh and Sa'd ibn Ubadah alayhim ridwanillah. He said, go and find out what's going on. And if you find them still, following the agreement, bound by the agreement, then declare it to me in front of everybody that Banu Qurayza are still bound by the agreement. If they betrayed the agreement, if they breached the agreement, then give me a hint. Do not tell me openly. And of course, they went there to visit with the leaders of Banu Qurayza, and Banu Qurayza started insulting the Prophet ﷺ. Now Sa'd ibn Mu'adh and Ubadah, Sa'd ibn Ubadah actually wanted to insult them back. But Sa'd ibn Mu'adh told him, it's much bigger than the insult. This is something very serious. Let's go to the Prophet ﷺ. They went to the Prophet ﷺ and told him, Ya Rasulullah, Adl and Qarra. Who were Adl and Qarra? We just mentioned their story, right? The ones Remember? The ones that betrayed the Prophet ﷺ in the story of Al-Raji'. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahu Akbar. A good news of victory is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they hinted, Adal an al-Qara. And of course, whenever you try to keep a secret, that's how it spreads very efficiently. Right? So everybody learned about that. Now meanwhile, the Jews of Banu Qurayza tried to attack. And they thought that the best place to start the attack will be to attack the women and the children. There's no defense in there. So they said, well, let's send a spy. And this spy will be able to tell whether they're protected or not. If they're not protected, we'll attack them, and that's it. There's nothing that will weaken the morale of the Muslim like seeing their own families captive. So they send one person. Safiya, alayhi radwanillah, the aunt of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, saw that man approaching from the Jews of Banu Qurayza. She knew what was happening. So she went to Hassan ibn Thabit, the poet of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and she told him, listen, he's coming. He's coming to check whether we're protected or not. We have to kill him. We have to do something about it. Otherwise, they know our weakness and we'll be lost. Hassan ibn Thabit said, well, I don't know how to fight. I don't know any fighting. I cannot fight. So what she decided to do, subhanAllah, he gave up like that. So what she decided to do, she stood behind a place, hiding behind a place, waiting here for him to come. And as soon as he came close, then she hit him with a post of a tent. He fell down. She stabbed him. She cut his head. And she threw the head back to Banu Qurayza. Banu Qurayza thought that, oh, the place is completely fortified. Now, how could she do that? Now, this is not to say that Safiya was heartless. She was a human. Imagine, doing something like that is not something that easy to be done. So it's something that's horrible, but she did it because she knew the severity of the situation. That the whole thing will depend on her. And with that, by the way, one woman changed the course of the whole battle. If she had not done what she did, the whole battle would have been lost. The all Muslims will be lost completely. But the act of one heroic, one great big hero of the Muslims changed the course of the whole battle. Meanwhile, the kuffar of Quraysh, so Qurayza took a step back. They did not attack. That's why they did not attack. So that place is still basically protected. Meanwhile, the kuffar kept on trying to come in as much as they could. They tried to push as hard as they could against the Muslims. And of course, it is difficult because an army could not walk in. Maybe one or two soldiers actually can cross, but the army could not penetrate in. But few people, actually 4 people managed to go in. Amr ibn Wid was one of the heroes of Quraysh. They said he was like Antara bin Shaddad, a famous legendary hero. Amr ibn Wid, Ikrim ibn Abi Jahl, who became a Sahabi later on, of course, Darar ibn al-Khattab, and Nawfal ibn Abdullah ibn Muawiyah. So they managed to cross the trench, and they went inside. Man yubariz, who's in for a duel? Who would fight? Now, the Prophet ﷺ, of course, the first person that came in was Amr ibn Wid, the legendary hero of Quraysh. Who would fight? Ali ibn Abi Talib says, Ya Rasulullah, let me go fight him. And the Prophet said, no, sit down. Ali was young, alayhi radwanillah. Who would fight? Who would fight? Who would go for him? Ali said, Ya Rasulullah, I will do it. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm concerned that he might kill you. And Ali said, no, I will kill him, inshaAllah. Subhanallah, look how strange and how strong he was, alayhi radwanillah. That's why he walked to Amr ibn Wid. Amr ibn Wid on his horse. And Amr ibn Wid said, who's there? Who are you? He says, Ali ibn Abi Talib. What do you want? He said, I offer you 3 things. I offer you 2 things. He said, I offer you either to fight. He said, I offer you Islam. And the man said, no, I'm not interested in that. What's the other offer that you're giving me? He says, it's to fight me. And the man said, I never thought anybody would live to fight me, or I would live to see somebody fighting me. People run away from his path. He says, then he stepped down and he started fighting with Ali alayhi radwanillah. He says, there was so much dust, the Sahaba didn't know who was fighting whom. And it lasted for 1 hour. Now 1 hour, just 1 hour. No, 1 hour of intense fighting is a lot. You can imagine what that would do. He says for 1 hour, and the Sahaba just see that 2 bodies moving around, one next to the other, and don't know who was stabbing, who was coming what. And then he said, after the dust, then Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi radwanillah, in the middle of the dust, emerged shouting, Allahu Akbar. He had killed Amr ibn Wid. After this 1 hour of fighting, then all the Muslims, Allahu Akbar. The biggest hero of the kuffar was killed by Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, and the others were killed shortly after by Zubair ibn al-Awwam and then somebody else. So these 4 big heroes of the kuffar were killed in no time. And then after that, then Abu Sufyan said that, why don't you send us the dead bodies, and we'll pay you whatever you want. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said that we will not take money for the dead people. And they threw the bodies back to them. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, meanwhile, and after that nobody dared to cross the trench. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was trying basically to pacify a small group, the tribe of Ghatafan. So the Prophet, which is a huge tribe, I think about 3,000 warriors, just the tribe of Ghatafan. So the Prophet ﷺ visited with their leaders, Uyayna ibn Husn. Uyayna ibn Husn, they were 4,000 people. Uyayna ibn Husn, the Prophet used to nickname him Al-Ahmaq al-Muta', that the idiot who is obeyed. So a person who doesn't make any sense, but his tribe obeys him, whatever he decides. So the Prophet ﷺ visited with him, along with Sa'd ibn Mu'adh and Sa'd ibn Ubadah. And the Prophet told him, if you go back, if you leave the army of Quraysh and go back, we will give you the fruits, the dates of Medina, or half of the dates of Medina for 1 year. So basically, we will provide you with that. And then the Prophet ﷺ consulted with Sa'd ibn Mu'adh and Sa'd ibn Ubadah. What do you think of that? And Sa'd ibn Ubadah and Sa'd ibn Mu'adh told him, Ya Rasulullah, is this something that Allah is commanding you to do? And the Prophet said, no. Is this something, because if it is, they will not give an opinion. That's how they will. Is it something that you like to do? And the Prophet said, no. And they said, Ya Rasulullah, before Islam, none of them will dare to get even 1 date from Medina without paying its price or without us giving it to him as a gift. And now that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dignified us with Islam, we're going to submit low to them like that. They will only have the sword for us, for them. And the Prophet ﷺ told Uyayna ibn Husn, it is whatever you heard, that's it. I pulled that offer back, that's it. It is whatever you heard. And again, the fighting intensified. They kept on trying to attack, and the Muslims kept on pushing. It was continuous, up to the point that the Prophet ﷺ, the fighting intensified from Dhuhr until Maghrib. And Umar said, Ya Rasulullah, Wallahi, I did not pray Asr until shortly before Maghrib. What a big problem. That's what he was saying, that the fighting was so intense, I could not pray Asr until shortly before Maghrib. So he prayed Asr on time, but before Maghrib. The Prophet ﷺ said, I could not even pray Asr. And the Prophet ﷺ prayed Asr and Qada, and after that prayed Maghrib. Wallah, to indicate here that even in the middle of a war, that prayer is not to be neglected. If it is not to be neglected in this situation, then none of us goes through a hardship that prevents him from praying. And the Prophet ﷺ used to always command the Sahaba to stick to the Salat. Before his death, Allah, Allah fi Salat. I ask you by Allah, do not neglect the Salat. And he repeated that ﷺ. Meanwhile, one of the great Sahaba alayhi wallah, we have to cut it in the middle, by the way, there's no way around it. There's still a lot of things coming up. So we'll cut it short, inshallah. Sa'd ibn Mu'adh alayhi one of the greatest Sahaba. He went to take a break. Maybe use the restroom or something, and he went back to the fighting. As he was going back, this thing is pinching so hard. As he was going back, then there was a place actually on his shoulder, between his shoulder and his neck, that was uncovered in here. Aisha alayhi saw him from a distance, and she said, Wallahi, I'm so afraid that he might be stabbed, or might be attacked actually from that point. And true enough, as he was fighting, then an arrow came and hit him in that place, in that same place. So they took him, alayhi, he started bleeding profusely. They tried to stop the bleeding, but it did not stop. So they took him to the masjid, where he will be tended to and then cared for, alayhi. And he stayed in there until, of course, the end of the battle. The Prophet ﷺ, again, after this long siege that lasted for 45 days. You can imagine 45 days in that difficult situation. No safety, no rest. And the Sahaba said that the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed Maghrib and then, and he started making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma assir awratana. Ya Allah, conceal our shortcomings. Allahumma amin rawatina. اللهم منزل الكتاب سريع الحساب اهزم الأعداء. Ya Allah, you conceal our shortcomings, protect, take away our fears. You are the one who sent down the book. You're the one who sent down the book. Defeat the parties. And true enough, the dua of the Prophet ﷺ was answered by something strange. One person, Na'im ibn Mas'ud ﷺ, came to the Prophet ﷺ as a Muslim. He was not a Muslim. In the middle of the battle, in the middle of these difficulties, this man came to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ declaring his Islam. And immediately he says, Ya Rasulullah, what should I do? Tell me what I should do to help you. And the Prophet ﷺ said to him, you're only one person, and you will not add much to our numbers. However, al-harbu khid'ah, that war has a trick, can be tricky. So why don't you go and discourage the others? Now, of course, meaning the others, the non-Muslims. And the non-Muslims, of course, didn't know that he was a Muslim. So what he did, he went first to Banu Qurayza. And he said to them, you know how close of a friend I am to you, right? You trust me. Yes, we trust you. You're a great person. And he said, let me tell you of a secret. Abu Sufyan thought that it was taking too long, 45 days. So he's thinking of going back to Mecca. And you know what? If he goes back, you'll be stuck with Muhammad because you betrayed him. And Muhammad is going to seek punishment from you. So as to protect your back, ask Abu Sufyan to leave with you 10 of his leaders. This will be a guarantee that he will not leave you like that without any protection or support. They thought, oh, this is a great idea. And he went to Abu Sufyan. Hey, listen, Abu Sufyan, you know how close I am to you, right? You know how close I am to Banu Qurayza, the Jews of Banu Qurayza. Banu Qurayza regretted the fact that they broke the agreement with Muhammad. And they're trying to please him, to reconcile with him. And they thought that the best way they reconcile with him is by taking 10 of your leaders and then killing them to please Muhammad. Abu Sufyan thought that, well, let me go check what's going on. So he went to Banu Qurayza and he said to them, what do you think the situation is like? It's taking too long, and what should we do? And they said to him, listen, we're afraid that you might leave us stuck in here, so why don't you leave 10 of your leaders with us as a guarantee? Then he thought, well, Na'im ibn Mas'ud is correct. They're going to kill our leaders. He said, let me think about it. So he went back. Meanwhile, and this, we're going to finish this inshallah. Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman alayhi ridwanullah described what happened next. He said it was a night of intense darkness, of intense cold, of intense fear, of intense hunger, of intense fatigue. He says, that's it. It's the worst. And he said, of course it was dark. And he says, then the Prophet ﷺ stood among us and he asked, who will go to the camp of the kuffar and get me some information? And I will guarantee al-Jannah for him. Nobody stood up. Nobody stood up. Abu Bakr was there, Umar was there, Ali was there, all those great Sahaba. Those were human to show how difficult the situation was. That the Prophet says, who will go, and I will guarantee, the Prophet himself will guarantee al-Jannah for him. Nobody stood up. So the Prophet ﷺ started walking around. Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman said that. He says, as he was walking around, then his foot hit my foot. So I pulled my foot back. And the Prophet said, who's there? I said, Hudayfa, Ya Rasulullah. And I said, Hudayfa, stand up and go get me the information. And Hudayfa said, yes. Now here an important lesson. The Prophet ﷺ made it optional first. When he asked who will go, basically nobody has to volunteer. Hudayfa was there, but he didn't stand up. But when the Prophet asked him specifically, that's it, he has to obey the Prophet ﷺ. Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, he said, I didn't have much of a garment except a garment that my wife used to wear. Very short. He says, and it was cold. He says, and the Prophet told him that you go and you do not do anything without my permission. You just go get me the information and come back. And he said, I crossed the trench, and as soon as I crossed the trench, I felt like I was in a bath. Warm and comfortable. And he says, when I looked at the other side, I thought it was cold on our side, but when I saw what happened to them, it was nothing. What we had was nothing compared to what they had. Their tents were upside down. Their pots were upside down. And of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the angels to do all of that to them. And he said, as I was walking, and from a distance, I saw Abu Sufyan, very close to me. And he said, I could have easily grabbed my arrow and throw it at him and killed him. Very easy. But I remembered what the Prophet ﷺ said to me, so I did not. And he says, then Abu Sufyan called among the army. He says, everybody get close, everybody come together, I have an important announcement to make. And then he said, I was sitting among some people. Abu Sufyan, before he said anything, he said, I'm going to make an important announcement to you. So I want each one of you to check who's sitting next to him. He thought I was lost. He said, what I did, he said, each one of you should check who's sitting next to him. So Hudayfa said, I asked the one to my right, who are you? He told me. I asked the one to my left, who are you? He told me, and nobody asked me. And then Abu Sufyan said, the situation is what you see happening. We're failing to make a breakthrough. It is time for us to go back. He says, everybody was so happy. Ar-Rahil, Ar-Rahil, going back. They were so happy to go back. And then Hudayfa alayhi ridwanullah crossed the trench back. He says, all the time, I felt that I was in a bath. As soon as I crossed the trench back to the side of the Muslim, it was intense cold. Allah has given him that, subhanAllah. He said, I went to see where the Prophet was, and the Prophet was inside his tent praying. And the Prophet noticed that I was in because my teeth were clenching. I was so cold. He says, in the middle of the prayer, the Prophet ﷺ opened his cloak, and he signaled for me to come close to him. And he covered me with his cloak in the middle of his prayer to warm me up. SubhanAllah, look how tender he was, ﷺ. And as soon as he finished the prayer, he asked me what happened, and I told him. And then the Prophet ﷺ asked me to go back and to go sleep. He says, I went to sleep, and I did not wake up until after the sun was up. And the Prophet told me, Qum ya Nawman, stand up, sleepy one. And the sun is already up. And then at that time, Jibreel alayhi salam came to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam in the shape of Duhyat al-Kalbi, a great Sahabi. And he said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam that, Ya Muhammad, what are you doing? He said, Prophet says that we're putting our weapons down. In a way, the war is over. And Jibreel told him that the angels are not putting their weapons down yet. Allah is commanding you to go attack the Jews of Banu Qurayza. It's not finished yet. And the Prophet ﷺ gave the command to the Muslims to go attack the Jews of Banu Qurayza. And inshallah we'll stop in here and we'll continue next time. Yes, Ikrimah managed to escape. He was not killed. He managed to escape. Yes, Jazakallah khair. Allah yabarak fik. Yes, you're right. I said it wrongly. Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl managed to escape back. And of course he became one of the Sahaba alayhi ridwanillah. جزاكم الله خير سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر جزاكم الله خير